As I mentioned, today we're going to start a new topic, that is pandas. And within pandas, we'll see how we can do data manipulation using pandas. Okay. So just to give an introduction about pandas. So Panda is the world's most popular Python library. Why I'm saying it is world most Python library, I'll explain to that part a bit later. But as I was saying earlier also, if you're working as a data scientist, if you're working as a data analyst, you should know how to do manipulations over tabular data, right? And Panda is the most popular tool for doing that. Okay. It's primarily used for data manipulations and data analysis. Also, people use pandas for data visualization. Okay. In this particular course, what would be our focus is we'll use Panda, we'll learn Panda to manipulate data frame. When I say data frame, I basically mean uh, some sort of a data which is organized in form of a table, like the one you had with SQL, or if you are comfortable with working with spreadsheet like CSV, Excel, I think you know what I'm trying to say with the data frame, right? It's uh, a rectangular data arrangement in form of rows and column. Okay, so we'll learn how to manipulate data frame. We will learn how to extract data from your data set or data frame, and we will transform those data in such a way that it can be used by managers. It should be used by stakeholder for making some decision out of it, right? So that is the main agenda we are having here. Okay. But in order to achieve those goals, there are few bite-sized work. There are certain bite-sized tasks that we need to do. For example, we should know how to import data first of all, right? You're having a data frame. Let's say that you are having an Excel file which is sitting in your system. So first of all, you should know how to import that Excel file in your Python environment, right? Once the data will be imported in your Python environment, then only you can do all this data manipulation, right? So you should know how to import data. Then one important thing is we should know how to clean our data, because in the real world the biggest problem data scientists uh, face is messiness in the data, right? The real data is not clean. If suppose you are working on certain applications where you are catching data from certain sensor reading, those reading will not be clean. Sometimes you'll see that the readings are very much abrupt. The readings uh, are having certain spikes, outlier values, right? Those may be because maybe the sensor is not uh, working well. It is having some defect in it, right? So first of all, what you need to do is the moment you have imported your data, you need to clean your data, because it's like garbage in and garbage out. If you're not working with a pre-processed data, if you're not working with a clean data, obviously the insight that you'll be generating out of it won't be reliable. Okay, so cleaning is very important task. In fact, there's a very popular saying in data science community that a data science work 80% of its time in cleaning the data, and 20% of time building model out of it. So with this only you can understand how cleaning data processing is important, and we will invest great amount of time only on cleaning the data part. Okay. Now let's say that you have cleaned the data. The next step comes is calculating statistics. Okay, so you may be interested in doing some computations, like what is the average value of this particular parameter, what is the median value, right? Whether they are having outlier or not. So those kind of some descriptive statistics is important to understand your data well. Right. Another thing that we as a data scientist do is data visualization. Now you have understood your data well. Now you have to present your finding to the stakeholders, right? So for that, what is the best thing is people use build chart, people use different visuals to communicate their insight with business people, because the people who are sitting at the top of organizations, they may not be very much technical person, right? They may not understand, if you'll give, if you'll tell them some critical statistical parameter like confidence interval. If you talk about outlier, they might not understand. They'll only get understand if you'll talk to them in a business sense. So one of the best way to share your understanding, your insight about your data is building visual, building plot from your data. Okay, so we'll see how we can use pandas for creating visual. Okay. Cool. Now, how I have structured this is, in the first part we will see how to import data frame, right? how to how to perform sorting and subsorting in data, right? Then we'll see how to create a new column in data, right? So for example, you have a data, you have collected certain records about different car, right? You have create a nice table that has information about the car price, it has information about the car average, mileage, engine type, right, horsepower. But suddenly something strike your mind, and you think that maybe I should also include the number of seats in car also as one of the parameter, right? So in that case, you need to create a new column, right, that will have the number of seats in that particular car. That comes about under creating a new column. Yeah, yeah. Here subsetting, let me correct this spelling. In the next part, we're going to see some summary statistics. As I was saying that once you have cleaned your data, the next thing you need to do is to come up with some certain summary statistics that can describe your data, right? And some of the very popular uh, topic in summary statistic is what? Mean, median, mode, standard deviation, right? Variance, range, quartile, right? Counting and group summary statistics. Okay. And in the third part, we will see how to subset using slicing, indexing, and subsetting of using indexes. Okay. Don't get overwhelmed with all this keyword or with all this terminology. It will get clear as we will proceed, right? And finally, we will see how to how do we plot by using pandas library. How do we handle using missing value in your data, right? So missing value is another problem which is data scientists face in almost all of their projects, right? And this missing value can happen because of numerous reason. It may happen maybe because of human error, it may happen because of system error, right? But that is the real world scenario. In real world, we don't get clean data. We'll have missing value, we'll have redundancy, we'll have lot of caveats with that data. We need to do pre-processing, we need to fill those gaps, and then we need to make analysis on top of it, right? Okay, so now let's start with the first topic. Any question in doubt till this part?
No, Ashok.
Okay, cool. So first of all, in this module, in the first module, transforming data frame, we're going to master the basics of pandas. Okay, and what would be those basics? I have already listed few of the point here, like sorting and subsetting, creating new columns, right? Okay, so first of all, understand that this panda is not a something outside of Python. Okay, it's just a library of Python. We have already seen a lot of libraries of Python, right? We have seen the math library. So it's just similar to that. Panda is a library of Python. Okay, and this library is built on top of NumPy and Matplotlib. So NumPy and Matplotlib are the another two libraries of Python which are very much popular. and this pandas library is built on top of this too, right? That means what? This panda library can provide the multidimensional array object, right? That means whatever things that we were able to do using NumPy, we would be able to leverage all those things with pandas also, right? So pandas is basically popular for two things. One is data frame manipulation, which comes because of NumPy part. It is also popular for data visualization, which comes from Matplotlib part. Okay. So if you'll read these two lines, NumPy provides multi-dimensional array object for easy data manipulation that pandas uses to store data, and Matplotlib has a powerful data visualization capabilities that pandas take advantage of. Okay. So you understand how Panda is powerful. It's powerful because of these two things. These Pandas is built on top of NumPy and Matplotlib, and it is having the capability of both. Right? As I was saying that, so in the introduction, my first line was Pandas is the most popular library of Python, right? And I told that I'll explain why I'm saying that it is most popular library. So here is the answer. So Pandas is the only library which is used by millions of users. Okay. There is a one fact figure here. About 14 million of people downloaded uh, Panda in December 2019. This means what? This means that every person who is doing data science, every person who is in the domain of data science, he or she directly or indirectly they are using Pandas. Right? So you can understand how powerful this library is. This library is so powerful that we have decided to dedicate certain class just to learn one library of Python. Okay. And Pandas is designed to work with rectangular data. So when I say rectangular data, it simply means data frame, which will have certain number of rows, certain number of columns. Okay. So now we will import a sample data set in our environment, and we will see what are the things that we can do with pandas. Okay. So here I have taken one data set, which is known as the homelessness data. And this contains the estimate of homelessness in US states in 2018, right? Like in other way, it simply have the count of people who are homeless in US, who were homeless in US in 2018. Okay. And primarily it has two columns. One column name is individual, which has the number of homeless individual not part of any family or with children, whereas the other column family member, it is the count of homeless individual who are the part of family with children. Okay. This will get clear when I'll show you the actual data. Okay. First of all, let us learn how do we import data in Google Colab. Okay. So to import any data in Google Colab, first of all, you should have the data in your Google Drive. Okay. Once you have the data in Google Drive, you need to mount your Google Drive, or in a simple way, I should say, you need to connect your Google Colab with Google Drive. And how do we do that? There's a library, there is a module called Google. From that, we import a sub package Colab, and from there, we import a function drive, right? And we pass argument the path. If you'll do this, right, it will ask you for certain permissions. Once you'll give all those permissions, your this Google Colab will be connected to Google Drive, and whatever data you have kept in your Google Drive, you can use it in Google Colab, right? So this is used for making the connection of your Google Colab with Google Drive. Now, next thing is what? We need to import a pandas package, right? Import pandas as PD. So I am importing pandas package here, and I'm aliasing it as PD because I don't want to write pandas all the place. It's convenient for me to write PD. Okay. All right. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to bring our data, which is there in our Google Drive, into our Google Colab environment. And the first thing that we do to make this happen is we make a connection between our Google Colab and Google Drive, right? Once you have imported your data into Google Colab, right? What is the first thing you need to do? You need to inspect your data. When I say inspect your data, basically you need to check 4 things. Actually, it can be more than 4 things, but at least you should check 4 things. First is you need to inspect certain rows. This will ensure you that you have imported the correct data. Second is you should check about their columns, what kind of data they are storing, right? The data type of each column. You should check if there is a missing value in your data set or not. You should check how many number of rows and how many number of columns are there in that particular data set. And then you can check for certain summary statistics, right? So to do all those things which I just mentioned, there are four methods in pandas: dot head, dot info, dot shape, and dot describe. We'll see each of this method one by one. But first of all, let us read the data from Google Drive, or I should say, let us import the data first of all. Okay. So in this pandas module, I'm having a method called read Excel, because I want to read an Excel file. Okay. So I'll use this function. I'll pass the path of my file, right? I'll pass the path of my file, and there's an argument called engine. So this engine is something which will do the reading of your data, which is there in Google Drive. Okay. And you need to give the name of engine. Open by Excel is the one which I'm using. So this will import your data in your Google Colab environment. Now, once you have the data in your Google Colab environment, you can check certain rows, right? So for that, I'm using a method called head. And this head method gives you the top 5 rows of your data, right? So you can see that row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the rows, right? There's no confusion about this. These are the rows, right? And these are the columns. Okay. So since this data is having the record of homeless people count in US, we can see here, there's a region, one column here. There's a state, right? So in Alabama, which is located in East South Central region of US, the count of homeless people, right, who do not have family or children is 2570, and count of homeless people who have family with children is this. And what is the total population of that particular state? This one. Okay. This gives you a bird eye view of your data. Now let us see what we can do with this data further, right? We use a method called .info. So this .info method will give you 2 things. Okay. First of all, it shows the information on each column, such as the data type and number of missing values. Okay. So if I'll use this one, it will, first of all, it will say what is the data type of this particular column. D type, you need to check the D type column. It says that the region column is having object data type, which is true because it is having the string values. Similarly, state is also occupying object data type, right? And here it gives you the count also. So here you'll see that there's no missing value. All the 5 columns have 51 number of records, 51 number of rows, right? So there's no missing value in this data set. This much information you are able to get easily by just invoking one method .info. Okay, let us see what else we can do with this data set. You can print the number of rows and columns. So for that, you need to use this method .shape. This will give you the number of rows. So it has total 51 number of rows and 5 number of columns. Okay. And now comes an interesting piece. Okay. So by this time, I think you are comfortable about the data, right? What this data is all about, right? How many number of rows it has, how many number of column it has, what are the different columns is recorded. Now let us see some descriptive measures, descriptive statistics of this data. Okay. So for that, you need to use another method called describe. Okay. And what this describe does is it gives you the maximum value of each of your numerical column, 75th percentile value of each of your numerical column, 50th percentile, that is the median in other way of your numerical column, 25th percentile, minimum value, standard deviation, mean, and count. Right? So by just looking at this matrix, you can say that the number of people who are homeless in US in 2018, right, is 51. Sorry, not 51. The average number of people who are homeless in US in 2018 is this one, is this much. Or I should say the average number of people in each of the state, right, in US in 2018 is this one. So you have information about mean, standard deviation, minimum value, 25%, and 50%, and 75% maximum value. Some statistic in statistic domain, some people call it as a 5-number summary also, right? All this matrix is a part of 5-number summary, right? So these are the descriptive measures about your data. Cool. Now in data, there are total 3 parts. If you look this data frame, there are total 3 parts, right? One part is the column, your column name, right? The other part is a row label. So this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is called the row label. And these values, right? And these values are the value of the data frame. Okay. So you can see each of this part by using Python code, right? If you want to see what are the values I'm having in my data, so you just need to use another method called dot values. Okay, and this dot value will give you the values of your data frame. Okay. If in case you want to see what are the columns I'm having in my data frame, you need to use another method called another attribute, I should say, another attribute called columns, homelessness dot columns, and it will give you what are the column names you're having in your data. Similarly, if you want to know row labels, you can use this attribute dot index, and it says that it has a value from 1 to 51, which is true. Yeah, it has value from 1 to 51. It's just that we are showing the top 5 rows. It is not showing the 51th row label, but it has total 51 row label. Still here any doubt? Any question? Okay, I'll take it as no. Now the next thing is, how do we sort and subset this data frame? Okay, so to sort your data by any particular column, there is a method called dot sort values. Okay, now let's say that you have this data frame, right? But you want to sort this data frame by descending order for this particular column individual. Okay, so you can do that very easily in Python. You are having a method called dot sort, and you want to sort your column individual, and ascending equal to true. Ascending equal to true means the lowest value will be shown in the top, followed by higher value. Okay. So I'm sorting this homeless data frame by this column individual in ascending order. Okay. Now you can see here, you'll see that the lowest value of individual column is in the top, followed by higher value. Right?
Will it sort by the particular column? Like if you're sorting here individuals, only individual section is sorted. The rest
no.
is not sorted.
The rest will also sort accordingly. The rest will also sort accordingly.
But if you see, the state population is not sorted though. So
State population is
the
also
sorting
sorted.
has different pattern.
No. States.
Like state population, the highest is in New England, so that is not sorted like at the last. So New
No.
England has least population here.
Yeah. See, if everything will get sorted, then the data will get distorted, right?
Distort, yeah.
Yeah. In that case, what will happen? It will happen that the state population of Delaware will be reflecting in the state population of North Dakota. Right. Let me,
Yeah.
if this is a doubt, let me
Yeah,
tell
sorting
you.
also has specific choices. Like only one section of the column you're sorting. That means that.
Yep. Let me explain this one in this way in spreadsheet. I'm having, let's say I'm having a column name. I'm having another column age. I'm having another column, let's say income. Okay. Here I am having, let's say 3 name, A, B, C. Age is what I'm putting 25, 29, 31. Income I'm setting as 10K. I'm setting here 15K. I'm setting here as 13K. Okay. If I ask you to sort this table by age, right? If I ask you to sort this table by age, how would you do that? In descending or in descending order. When I say descending order means the person who is having
21,
high,
29, 25.
yeah. So 31, 29, 25. What will come here in these column? First of all, tell me about the name.
Yeah. So here CBA.
CBA, right? Here
Yeah,
what will
this
come?
is sorted.
Yeah.
And the
Here,
salaries must also be sorted, no? Like names are sorted, then the income is also sorted. 13, 15, 10. It won't?
wait. So if you are saying that income should also get sorted, if I sort income also,
Like particular age person is getting that income, then income must also be sorted.
yeah. So if I'll sort income, then what will come? What will come here?
No, if income is sorted, I'm sorry, income is sorted, they'll get merged.
Yes,
Like,
so that's what happening here. When I'm sorting the table, when I'm sorting my data frame, it is sorting based on one column. The other column will preserve the pattern. It should not merge, right? Understood this part?
okay.
Yeah. So the sorting that we are doing in Excel here, the same sorting is happening there also. It should be 13K, it should be 15K, it should be 10K. Okay. So now I'm sorting this data frame homelessness, right, by another column family member, right, in descending order. So if I have to sort in descending order, I have to make this argument as false. Initially, when I have to sort ascending order, I kept it is true, but now you see
Actually,
that
my question was when you are sorting family members, then the other columns would arrange by itself to the particular family members.
correct. It will get arranged itself.
Okay, so that was my question.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So here I'm sorting in descending order. So I just need to change the argument. Here I'll make false, right? Ascending equal to false since I'm sorting in descending order, right? And you'll see that the largest value will be on top, followed by smaller value. Okay. Now let's say that you want to sort by category, right? So what you want to do here is, first of all, you need to sort for all the family member column by region wise. Okay. So it 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 allows you to do that also. Here what you will do, here you will invoke same method dot sort values. Okay. You will pass here two argument. One is the region, so it will sort the same by region wise. Initially we will sorting an entire data frame. Now it will do the same in region wise, right? And then you'll see that what we are doing here is we are doing here sorting in descending order by region wise. You'll see that for all the cases, for all the cases of north, east, north, central, right, this family member got sorted in descending order. The same thing will happen for other region also. Are you getting? Is this part clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now coming to the next part, subsetting of column. Okay. So right now we have done sorting. Now let's do subsetting. So subsetting means extracting any particular column or extracting multiple columns from a data frame. Okay. So I'm having this data frame homelessness. I want to extract just one column out of it and keep it as a data frame. Then what I'll do, homeless within square bracket, two square bracket, I'll put the name of column. Okay. So here if you see that if I'll do print individual dot head, it will give me the top 5 rows. Right. If I want to extract two column from my homelessness data frame and want to keep it as a data frame, I'll put the name of those two columns. You'll see that those two columns got extracted and we are printing the top 5 element of it.
Will sorting give the respective values of that column?
Yeah, it can. It can give.
Or would it just sort one column, and if the other values are not matching to the respective column?
No, it will match. If you are using a sort values method, it will sort your data frame by one particular column, and the other column will match. Right? It will not get merged or it will not get jumbled.
Fine.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did.
Can we move ahead, or we want to invest a bit more?
Like right now you're telling about how to select one column or two columns and print it.
Yes, exactly.
So I got it.
Okay. All right. The next is subsetting of rows. Okay. So how do we subset rows? So when I say subsetting of rows, it simply means that I want to select some specific rows from my data frame. Okay. Let's say you are having a data frame of people and there's a one column called age. So you want to get only record of those people whose age are above certain threshold. So that is called subsetting of rows. What we saw now was the subsetting of columns. Now we will see the subsetting of rows. Okay. So let's say that I want to get all the records, right, where the count for individual is more than 10,000. So what I'll do is I'll just use the relational operator here, right, and I'll encapsulate it within square bracket for this data frame homelessness, and you'll see that here the resultant data set will have all the record where individual count is more than 10,000. Is it making sense? You'll see that all the record, the count is more than 10,000. If I'll do it less than 10,000, let's see. See here, you see that all the individual count is less than 10,000. Okay. By the way, this is getting recorded, right? Yeah. Okay, now let's do the next thing here. If I want to get all the records where the region is mountain, again I'll use a relational operator here. Homeless region is equals to mountain, and I'll encapsulate it within square bracket for the data frame homelessness. It will give me all the record where region is mountain. Okay. If I want to get all the record where my family member count is less than 1,000 and region is specific, right, now I'm increasing the complexity. Right now I'm using two condition here. I want to get the record where my family member is less than 1,000 and homelessness region is equal to Pacific. So here I just need to use AND operator here. So here now relation operator will also come, logical operator will also come, right? And same thing, I have to encapsulate it by square bracket for this data set homelessness, and you'll see that there's only one record, which is
Three conditions, right? Or there are only two conditions. One is the family member is less than 1,000. The second one is homeless region is specific. Oh, two conditions. Sorry.
yeah, only two conditions.
The region is specific. Yes.
Yep, region is specific. So you'll see that the region is specific. Family member is 582, which is less than 1,000. That's why this only one record got subsetted. Right? Okay. So I think we'll take a pause here. You need to do a lot of practice in this. Right? I do have a few more topics to cover, but it seems like it would be a bit overwhelming if I'll cover everything today. I'll take a pause here. If you have any questions, you can ask. And
but I just wanted to ask you, like, we have ended up knowing about few functions here last class.
yes,
Are we ready for data science with that knowledge? What you have shared with us in Python?
yes, absolutely. You'll so in today's class
I hope we
also,
don't get into
if you see whatever things concept we have used, it is all coming from the previous class, right? We are not using anything new or anything which we have not covered. We already talked about
Yeah, I have a doubt. Like, how about functions and are there only those functions or any additional features in Python? So I have no idea about it.
yeah, we do have a lot of other concepts in Python, right? So if we'll focus only on Python, it would take like a
Individually.
it will take like a forever time. What we are focusing on
Okay.
is those element of Python which has got applications which are required to do data science. right?
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that whatever we have learned in Python should be sufficient to proceed with data science. Then I'm okay with it. Otherwise, I myself don't know
Yeah, see,
what I have to learn more.
yep. See, while doing the data science part also, when it'll start actually dive into the topic like predictive analytics, if we come across in a topic which belongs to Python part, which we have not covered, then again we'll revisit the Python part and cover that topic, right?
Okay.
But this is the next step. This is the next step, and this is very important for doing data analysis, because if you're working as a data analyst, you will get these kind of problem. Somebody will give you some tabular data to you, maybe in form of a spreadsheet or some other way, and you have to use these tools to come up with some insight from that data, right? So this is more important part. So we started with the elementary concept of Python. Now we are slowly moving toward the application part of Python. This all is Python, right? Everything, whatever we have covered, it's all Python now. But now the things will start getting a little bit complicated each day. Right. So I'll share this PDF with you, and I'll request you to please do some hands-on with this. If you can just simply copy paste this code and recreate this notebook again, that would also help you to understand this thing in bit detail.
Sure.
Okay. So tomorrow
Yeah.
we'll start with the subsetting of rows by categorical variable. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I think since we have time, we can cover it now only. I think because only this part is left. So let's cover it
Okay.
now itself. Okay.
Sure.
Now the next thing is subsetting rows by categorical variable. Okay. So if you'll see this data again, this data of homelessness, right? Yeah, this part. So what are the categorical column? This is the categorical column. This is the categorical column. These three are the numerical column, right? So now what we are trying to do is we are subsetting rows by categorical variable. For example, let's say that somebody comes and tell that I only want to see those record for which the region is specific, right? For which the region is specific and family member is less than 1000. So you can simply use this comparison operator and you can fetch the answer to him. But do you think that this is feasible? This is scalable? What if the user comes and say that I want all the record for the region Pacific, for the region Atlantic, for the region Asia? You need to write one condition for each of those input, right? Which may not be feasible. What if the user asks for 100 different regions? So there is a smarter way of doing it. What you can do is, let's say that your user says that I want a record for all the states which belongs to this particular list: California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, right? So what you are doing is you are creating a list, right? And then you are using this operator. What is this operator? If you recall, this is membership operator, right? We have already covered this part when we read about operators. What this is doing is homelessness state. That means first of all, I'm subsetting the state column, right? And then I am subsetting only those records where the state is either California or Arizona or Nevada or Utah, right? So now you need not to write conditions. Now you need not to write or condition for each of these four input. You can use a membership operator, and this is smarter way of doing this, right? Here you have to print those data frame where the state will be one among these four, which is given by the user. Okay. So this is a very helpful technique, I would say. Whatever things that we have covered, it's very much required when you are doing some data analysis, right? So if you are aware of these things, it would reduce your analysis time. Otherwise, you need to do Google search all the time and get the syntax or get the code part of it, right? So again, I'll suggest that please set some time to do some hands-on, right? Here I have taken a sample data set. You can take your own sample data set. There are a lot of data set available in internet, right? There's a one very popular data set called Iris, which has records about iris plant, iris flower, its sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. So you can import that data in your Colab environment and do all sorts of these things that we have learned today, right? Okay. So I'll spin another bridge. If you have any doubt, we can clarify. If you have practiced certain program and you face certain issue there, we can discuss all those things there, right? And today and tomorrow we'll meet again and we'll continue from here. Thanks for your time. Let's meet tomorrow.
Sure. Thanks to
Thanks,
you.
Sushma.